This story is something I experienced many years ago. I'm turning 60 this year. It's been over 30 years since the night I'm about to share with you, and even now, I remember it as clearly as if it just happened yesterday. Back then, I was in my late 20s, already a few years into driving taxis for a living in Hong Kong. And believe it or not, I still drive today. The city was different back in those days. Not as many high-rises, not as many people. Taxis weren't everywhere like they are now. Back then, the cab meter started at just $1, and passengers would scramble to flag us down at night. That gave drivers like us the luxury to be selective about who we picked up. I had a habit of choosing older folks, or families with small children. I figured they needed the ride more than the rest. On this particular night, it must have been close to midnight. I had just dropped off a family I picked up from Dim Sa Joy. They were headed out to the new territories. After that drop-off, I started heading back towards Kowloon. That's when I saw them. An elderly man and a little girl standing together on the side of a quiet road. It was starting to rain lightly, and the two of them were getting soaked under the dull orange streetlights. The elderly man looked to be in his 80s, hunched over from age. He was holding the little girl's hand. She looked about 6 or 7 years old. He saw my cab approaching and quickly waved me down. I pulled over. Then I opened the passenger door to let them in. "Are you headed toward Kowloon?" I asked. The old man nodded. Yes, sir. But I only have $20 on me. Would you mind driving us for that amount? He looked tired, soaked, and far from wealthy. Something about him felt humble, honest. And standing there in the rain with a small child, I just couldn't say no. "Don't worry about the money," I said. "I'm heading that way anyway, just hop in. It'll be free of charge. I could use some company." The old man looked surprised, almost touched. "Thank you, young man. Truly, thank you." Him and the little girl hop in, and I closed the door. We started our journey toward Kowloon. The old man was surprisingly talkative, warm, and thoughtful. He told me he was a Taoist priest. For those who are not familiar, Taoist priests are similar to shamans. They're the ones that people call when strange things start happening at home. Ghosts, spirits, bad energy. They write talismans, perform rituals, and help people ward off evil. He kept complimenting me, telling me I was a good man, saying that the world needed more kindness, more compassion. Never lie, never cheat, never rob, he said. Live righteously, and life will reward you. I can tell just by looking at your face. You have a peaceful spirit, a bright future ahead of you. Honestly, I thought he was just being polite, trying to return my favor with flattery. I nodded, smiling, keeping the mood light. But the little girl? She never said a word. She didn't even look up. Her hair was wet, clinging onto her face. She sat there perfectly still in the back seat the whole ride. I couldn't see her face in the rearview mirror. Her head was always down. I figured maybe she was just shy, maybe tired, or maybe just uncomfortable from the rain. It was dark, and I didn't think much of it. We made it to Tiwonsan, a quiet residential area in Kowloon. I pulled up and opened the automatic passenger door so they could get out. The old man stepped out first, holding the little girl's hand. He thanked me profusely, and then they started to walk off into the rain. As I was about to drive off, I heard a knock on my window. The old man came back. I figured maybe he left something in the car or he still wanted to pay me with the $20 he had on him. I rolled down the window. "Mister," I said, "I told you already, don't worry about the fare." But he shook his head. No, this is not about the money. Please, take this. It will be good for you." He handed me a small bundle, a stack of papers folded tightly and bound together with a red string. I didn't recognize what it was, but I accepted it with a polite nod. "Thank you," I said. "Now please, get inside. It's raining harder now." He smiled and nodded. "Take care of yourself, young man." Then he turned and walked away. As I was trying to untie the string from the bundle he gave me, I glanced up. Just ahead of me, outside a nearby crematorium building, I saw two figures standing in the rain, waiting for a taxi. That struck me as strange. It was well past midnight. What were people doing outside a crematorium at this hour? I looked back toward the old man and his granddaughter. But now, all I could see is the old man walking by himself. The little girl was gone. Confused, I scanned the area. Maybe she'd run on ahead, but that didn't make any sense. It was late. It was raining. What kind of grandfather would let a small child run off like that? And then I thought, did she not get out of the taxi? I turned around and looked in the back seat. It was empty. Before I could gather my thoughts, I noticed that the two figures I saw earlier, they were now walking toward my taxi, flagging me down. I figured they needed a ride, so I let the car slowly roll toward them as I was still trying to untie what the old man gave me. Once I reached the new passengers, I pressed the button to open the rear passenger door. They climbed in. They were soaked from head to toe, and their hair flung in wet clumps over their faces. I couldn't tell if they were men or women, as it was very hard to see, similar to the little girl. But judging from the build of their bodies, I think they were both men. "Where are you guys headed?" I asked. I didn't fully look back at them just yet. Just a few glances from the rearview mirror, as I was still preoccupied trying to fully unfold the bundle that the old man had given me. I finally untied the string and opened the stack of papers. That's when it happened. A sudden flash, like a camera flash, right in my rearview mirror. Startled, I looked up, expecting to see another car flashing its high beams behind me. I thought maybe I was blocking traffic by stopping to pick these passengers up. But there was nothing there. There was no cars. The road behind me was completely empty. I blinked, confused, and then my blood ran cold. The back seat, it was empty. The two passengers? Gone. They had gotten into the cab. I had opened the door for them. I heard the door close. There's no way they could have left without me noticing. I would have had to open the door for them. I quickly looked outside. Nobody. Just the rain falling steadily on the pavement. My hands trembled slightly as I looked back down at the paper in my hand. It was the talisman. Not just one talisman, but a whole stack of talismans that the old man gave me. They were all in yellow paper, inked with red symbols that I couldn't read. I think when the old man hopped out, he saw up ahead there were two spirits waiting to hop into my cab. That's why he came back to knock on my window, to give me these talismans to protect me. It was his way of thanking me for my kindness, for giving him and his granddaughter a free ride. Somehow, that old man knew something was coming, something I couldn't see, or rather, couldn't fully comprehend. Looking back, there was one thing three of the people had in common that night. The little girl and the two figures who got into the cab after. I never saw a single one of their faces clearly, not once. The girl's hair clung to her cheeks like a curtain, and her gaze stayed fixed downward the entire ride. The other two, soaked and silent, were nothing more than hunched shapes with faces hidden behind their dripping hair, almost like they didn't want to be seen, or maybe they couldn't be. But the old man, his face I could remember, clear as day, the creases around his eyes when he smiled, the gentle rasp of his voice. That man was real. And the more I reflect on it, the more I believe he was the only one in the cab that night that was truly living. I believe now that when he stepped out of the cab and looked ahead, he saw those two shadowy figures waiting by the cremation building. He knew exactly what they were. He must have recognized them for what they truly were from his personal experience. That's why he came back, not to pay me with money, but to pay me with something else. Those talismans were his form of repayment to me, a shield, a thank you for the kindness I'd showed him. Because he knew that I was going to stop for those two passengers the same way I had stopped for him and his granddaughter. And if he didn't do that for me, who knows what might have happened. From that night onward, I've kept those same talismans with me, tucked away in my handrest over the years. It's been over 30 years now, thousands of passengers, hundreds of late-night shifts, and not once have I encountered anything like that ever again. But I'll never forget that night. It taught me something, not just about the supernatural, but about people, about karma. That old man told me something simple, but it stuck with me all these years. You don't have to be religious to believe that doing good brings good. Just live your life as the best version of yourself. Be kind, be honest, help others, and you'll be protected in ways you may never even see. As for the little girl, I still don't know who or what she was. Maybe she wasn't his granddaughter after all. Maybe he was escorting her. Maybe he was guiding her. I'll never truly know. But if you have any thoughts, if any of you watching or listening can make sense of it, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. Because one thing's for sure, that night changed me forever.